Hey there, Wastelanders, and welcome back to War Games News Radio for another installment of Better Know a Faction, a series where I go through the special rules and tactics for different factions in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This time around, we're taking a look at one of the highly anticipated new factions in the Commonwealth wave, the Gunners. First appearing in Fallout 4, no job is too tough for this group of hired mercenaries. If you've got the caps, they've got the guns, and they are a very tactically minded, synergy-focused faction on the tabletop in Wasteland Warfare. So let's take a look at the Gunners faction special rules and go over all of their units and their strengths and weaknesses. Much like the Enclave, the Gunners are a faction that benefit from synergy and castling, gaining special buffs when within presence range and line of sight of other units in the faction. They're a shooting-focused group and somewhat light on objective skills, but they make for an effective and affordable hit squad even in skirmish games of under 500 caps. Each unit has a different rank, which is indicated by the number of stars on top of their unit card next to the Gunners icon. The more stars a unit has, the higher their rank, from 0 stars all the way up to 3. Special abilities on a unit's card that are marked with the Gunners symbol are only triggered when the model is within presence range and line of sight of a higher ranked gunner unit. So lieutenants and commanders can activate the gunner buffs of sergeants and lower ranks, sergeants can activate the buffs of privates and conscripts, and privates can only activate the buffs of conscripts below them. Most gunners have a presence range of blue with a couple notable exceptions, so it's a good idea to try to keep your gunner squad within close range to gain full benefit of these abilities. Just like the gunner special abilities on the unit's cards, all gunner units also gain the Ruthless and Orders special rules, which allow any unit to gain a quick action point when defeating an enemy model, and allow them to activate a lower ranked gunner model within yellow range once per turn. Now this last rule is pretty important, as the key word here is every turn, not every round, which means rules as written, you can activate at least 2 of your gunner units every turn when you activate, so long as you are within range of a lower ranked unit. Lastly, for faction rules, gunners can't use any chems to help boost their stats, which is one key difference that sets them apart from other factions like raiders and survivors. And keep in mind that this also applies to healing chems like stimpaks and healing powder, so you'll have to rely on food items to remove hit points mid-battle. Also, no gunner can use any pistol or rifle with the word pipe in the name, so that rules out weapons like pipe pistols and bolt-action pipe rifles, as well as their legendary variants. While this rule means that gunners don't have access to any of the lower tier cost-effective range weapons, it doesn't have a huge impact on the faction one way or another in my opinion, as even in battle mode, pipe weapons are all in the wasteland items category, which aren't accessible to gunners in the first place. With the faction rules out of the way, let's take a look at all the gunner units and their different special abilities. First up is the lowest rank unit in the faction, the Gunner Conscript. With 5 hit points, 1 physical and 1 energy armor, they're about as tough as your average raider or psycho. They have an impressive red move range and a green charge, making them the fastest unit in the faction. They search on a half-decent perception of 6, but they're by far the worst gunner in combat, hitting with pistols on 4s, melee and thrown weapons on 3s, and they can't use rifles or big guns. For their gunner ability, conscripts have Scramble, which makes them even faster when moving across the battlefield, allowing them to ignore difficult terrain, and they gain access to quick action moves. Now, conscripts are crazy affordable at just 36 caps as of the filming of this video, but you get what you pay for with these units, as they tend to get taken out fairly quickly. But they can make for a good distraction or cannon fodder to rush up the field and swarm enemy shooters. Next up is the Gunner Private, which get a step up from the conscript when it comes to both combat and objective skills. Their thrown weapon and melee skills aren't anything to write home about, but they do get a bump to their ranged agility stat, going from 4 up to 5, and they get access to rifles. They have a physical and energy resistance of 2 and 5 hit points, and they also have access to quick action moves without needing a higher rank gunner nearby, unlike the conscript. Privates also make for a surprisingly effective objective runner. Lockpicking and searching on a perception of 6 and hacking on an intelligence of 4, they actually have the most even spread of all 3 objective skills across all units in the faction, making privates a must-have, at least for my opinion, in any objective-based scenario. As for gunner abilities, they ignore the -2 penalty for making enemy reactions, and they also gain a free quick action point whenever they activate. Moving on, we have the Gunner Sergeant, which is probably my favorite of the lower ranked gunners units currently available. Just like the Private is a better version of the Conscript, the Sergeant keeps with the upward trajectory across the gunner ranks. They're a better shooter with ranged weapons with an agility of 6, hit on strength of 4s with melee, thrown weapons, and big guns, and they also get a boosted HP of 6. They're great looters, searching on a perception of 7, but they're worse at both hacking and lockpicking compared to the Private, scoring on both with just a luck of 2. Sergeants have access to both quick actions moves, charges, and quick action shooting, and a pair of gunner special abilities that make them one of my go-to units in this faction. Their experience ability lets them add an extra black, yellow, or green die to any rifle or pistol attack, so long as the weapon they're using doesn't already grant one of those die to the skill roll. This makes them crazy versatile, allowing you to boost an attack as necessary to either help guarantee a hit, break armor, or deal extra damage to secure a kill. And they also have the suppressing fire aura ability, which gives all friendly units access to quick action range attacks while within their blue presence range bubble. This ability pairs very well with the Gunner Private, who get that free quick action every activation thanks to their on the double special rule. All of these shooting buffs make Sergeants an excellent sniper and support unit, so taking a few of these in your list and pairing them along with Privates will go a long way when you need to dish out some damage at long range. Last up for the non-unique units in the Gunners faction is the high-ranking Commander. One of the few 3-star units in the faction, these brutes can activate the Gunner abilities of all their lower-ranked underlings, and they also have a few interesting buffs of their own. They're one of the most resilient units in the faction with 6 hit points and 3 physical and energy armor, and they get a boost to their ranged attack abilities compared to the Sergeant, hitting on pistols and rifles with an agility of 7. While their big guns, thrown weapons, and melee skills aren't great at just a strength of 4, they do have the Ripper specialty, which grants them a +2 to attack rolls when using a Ripper, making them one of the few half-decent melee units in the entire faction. And if you give them a set of T45 power armor, their melee skills get cranked up to an 8, giving them a 75% base chance to hit. Because of their Tactician special rule, all gunners in their blue presence range do not count towards calculating advantage, meaning if you keep your gunners in a tight formation, you significantly increase the chance you're going to go first every single round. Pair that with the Orders faction ability, and the gunners can strike first and strike often. For me, Gunner Commanders are a high-value, must-kill target when it comes to going up against this faction, because going first in a round can sometimes mean the difference between victory and defeat. Commanders are immune to Battle Cry, and they have access to move and shoot quick actions, and they also get a modified VATS roll at the start of their turn, granting them an action point if you roll a star on the blue effect die. For more on making VATS rolls, see page 40 in the core rulebook. Before we go on to the named characters in this faction, if you're liking this video and finding the information helpful, then hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to WGNR for more tabletop content coming every single week. If you really want to help support the channel, then consider heading over to our Patreon page, where you can become a sponsor and get exclusive benefits like double entry into future WGNR giveaways and access to exclusive polls where you get to help decide the direction of future content here on the channel. You can also visit our new merch store and get some cool new swag so you can help support WGNR and look good doing it. But that's enough shameless self-promotion, let's get back to the video. Rounding out the Gunners faction, we have Baker, Tessa, and Clint, all of which can be found in the Conquerors of Quincy box set. Baker is a fat man wielding sergeant, and big guns are his specialty, hitting on an agility of 7. He has access to the quick reload ability, which allows him to test luck once per round, and if successful, Baker gets a second shot with a slow firing big gun. Just keep in mind that if you do equip him with his signature Fat Man, that the launcher only gets 1 use per game. So this ability actually pairs best, in my opinion, with the missile launcher. And while Baker hits with big guns on his agility of 7, his strength is only 5, meaning that there are a lot of big guns that he can't take because of their 7 or greater strength requirement. This is why the missile launcher is my choice for Baker, because it doesn't have that 7+ strength requirement and deals a hell of a lot of damage. Baker also has access to quick action big gun shots, which is never a bad thing. Surprisingly, Baker is the toughest member of the faction with 7 hit points and 3 physical and energy armor, and with a strength of 5, he has one of the better melee skills in the faction, even though hitting on 5s still isn't that great with a 45% base chance to hit. His range abilities are even worse than his melee skills, hitting with pistols and rifles on a perception of just 4, so it's best to lean on Baker's strengths and set him as your dedicated big gunner with a decent melee weapon or pistol as a backup, just in case. Next, we have Tessa, one of the Quincy commanders and easily the best melee bruiser in the entire Gunners faction. With an agility of 7, access to melee quick attacks, and the unique weapon Tessa's Fist, she packs a serious punch. She has the potential to deal even more damage because she gets to equip her signature power armor free of charge. This brings her strength up to 7, which grants an extra black die when making any melee attack. Her power armor is essentially a modified and unique version of the Raider power armor and has a 2+1 physical, 3 energy, and 2+1 radiation resistance. It's also the cheapest set of power armor currently available by a very slim margin at just 32 caps compared to the Raider power armor's 33 caps. Without her power armor, Tessa is fairly squishy with just 6 hit points, 2 physical, and 1 energy armor, so best to keep her strapped up in her tin can whenever possible. She can't use big guns, but Tessa does have half-decent lockpicking and searching skills with an intelligence of 5. Her hit-and-run aura ability allows Tessa and all other friendly gunners in her blue presence range to break engagement with an enemy model without drawing a free attack. Just keep in mind that this ability is not active when she is within presence range of Clint, so make sure to keep those two at an arm's length if you need to keep this buff active. Last up is Clint himself, the former Minuteman turned mercenary and leader of the Quincy Gunners. With a presence range of black, Clint is the most effective unit when it comes to triggering the gunner special abilities of his lower ranks. Clint is the faction's best shooter, hitting with pistols and rifles on an agility of 8, and he is also the smartest gunner in the crew, hacking computers with an intelligence of 6. Melee, thrown weapons, and big guns aren't his strongest suit, hitting on a strength of 4, but those stats can get bumped up to 6s when giving him a set of T-51 power armor like he has equipped both on his model and in Fallout 4. Without power armor, Clint isn't any tougher than the Gunner Sergeant with just 6 hit points, 2 physical, and 2 energy armor. But his veteran ability gives other gunner units within his black presence range an extra hit point so long as he's not within range of Tessa. Clint has access to quick action shooting attacks and can bank criticals, and he also comes equipped with a free laser rifle and the Enraged mod, which allows you to roll an extra blue die when making a critical attack. Depending on what special symbols you roll while making that critical attack, you can gain control of the target unit and force them to make a quick action. On a bottle, you can make the unit activate a quick move. On a star, they can make a move or an attack. And on a mushroom cloud, they can either move, attack, or perform a use expertise action. This mod is shockingly similar to the RoboBrain's Mesmetron weapon, but just keep in mind that this ability has no effect against creatures, robots, or synths. There you have it, Wastelanders, your first look at the Gunners in all their glory. This is a faction that some folks have been waiting for quite some time, so I have a feeling they're going to be very popular in both narrative and competitive play. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we've got lots more Commonwealth Wave reviews and gameplay coming your way soon. Next time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Railroad, who have a ton of special abilities and named characters, so stay tuned because, as always, WGNR will be back.